This episode is brought to you by Core, the brand new non-custodial wallet that offers a seamless and secure experience on Avalanche. You'll hear more about Core later in the show. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Empire. Super lucky today to be joined by my co-host and my friend, Santiago, and a very special guest who I will share in a second. I want to give a little bit of a background here. There are very few companies that break out of crypto and kind of make it into the normie zeitgeist, right? And since I've gotten to the industry, I think a couple come to mind, right? You had CryptoKitties in 2017, you had NBA Top Shots, you had Axie Infinity, and most recently you had a company called STEPN, right? So STEPN is a crypto Web3 app that pays users for one thing that most of us do hopefully every day, which is moving around and walking around. STEPN really created the move to earn or move and earn category. They finished fourth out of over 500 projects at the Solana Ignition Hackathon in 2021 and just had absolute rocket ship growth. Just 6 months after launch, STEPN managed to achieve a peak of Yawn might have to correct me on these numbers, but 400,000 daily active users, I think.
Yes, we hit about 400,000 after the launchpad launch.
After the launchpad. So 400,000 daily active users. The number I have for monthly active users is 1.7 million. They were one of the most downloaded apps in the fitness section of the App Store. Just amazing growth in 6 months. Today, though, I think the big question on everyone's mind is, can STEPN sustain the momentum through the bear market, or will they get hit pretty hard like some other play to earn brands did in the last 12 months? There is no better person to discuss that big question that's on everyone's mind, plus the longer term vision of STEPN than their co-founder, Yawn Rong. Yawn, we are super excited to have you on Empire. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. This episode is supposed to be about STEPN. It almost turned into a Harry Potter episode. Yawn told us that he completed a 60,000 piece Hogwarts collection, which is honestly more impressive than STEPN. That is a feat in and of itself. But Yawn, we're very excited. I think we have to give a quick disclaimer. Santiago is both a Harry Potter fan, so you got him on that note, but also a seed investor in STEPN. So just wanted to give a quick disclaimer there. Yawn, I think it'd be helpful if you could we're recording this early July 2022. You guys had absolutely massive growth over the last 6, 7, 8 months. And now obviously not just maybe the STEPN price is down, but the entire market has taken a massive turn. So I think it'd be helpful to get your framework on just where you're seeing the market today, but also how this relates to STEPN. And then we can use that as a jumping off point.
Sure. So yeah, definitely we are in the sort of recession, as we see, is 2 consecutive quarters of the US GDP went to negative. So, obviously that basically also affect the crypto market, the whole financial market. So definitely in the bear market. And as we can see, everything pretty much went down 80% ish. And so we soon discovered the bear market and we're starting to pivot. So we can talk about that later, but we are moving now fast to shift our attention from the Web3 to Web2 and trying to capture, really the price insensitive crowd that in the running community, and basically from a just everyday use on the working trackers or running trackers. So we're starting to see changes were made in the next couple months. Plus, we pivot 2 ways. One we pivot horizontally, and one we pivot vertically. So we also pivot away and starting to build a much bigger ecosystem where the move to earn, often people ask where that earn come from. So meaning that we have to build something much bigger than the STEPN app, and then to support the earning bit, which again, we can talk about that later. So yeah, we are now trying to take this time in the bear market and build a series of flywheels and also Web2 product, and to constant expand the product and brand awareness and recognitions, and then to bring people through STEPN. So we always see STEPN as a user on Web3 onboarding tools, rather than typically a GameFi project, where we're trying to get the Web2 user onboarding with STEPN and then move them to, let's say, the DEX we build, the NFT marketplace we build, and also down the track, the social app we build.
There's a stat I saw you on that was really impressive, which is 1/3 of STEPN users had never actually had a crypto wallet before, which is just an amazing stat. So STEPN alone got hundreds of thousands of people to open a crypto wallet for the first time. It'd be interesting to hear your take on like, what is STEPN today? People think of it as the app that you download, you get money when you walk around. It's like move to earn, versus what does STEPN look like maybe 18 months from now or 36 months from now? Today's vision or today's product versus maybe the future vision.
Yes. So STEPN now, as an individual app, is really trying to promote a healthier mind and body and lifestyles, and to motivate people to achieve that type of routine of, let's say, a little bit exercise every day. We do token incentives, and that will also come in two stages. Stage one, basically token incentives of the GST, and then stage two will be the token incentive of the GMT. And let's say 18 months from now, I would say we don't need 18 months. Let's say 6 months from now, we will be able to expand with a complete functional of the DEX and a complete functional of NFT marketplace with a launchpad, which the third-party NFT could launch through us. And we are also branching into a clothing brand, so building our own clothing brand, Appeals, and also building our own beverages. So as you can see that we're trying to tap into the everyday items the Web2 people or normal people, normies use, and really just have the brand in front of them. So people drink waters every day, so we're going to have a water brand. And they wear clothes every day, we're going to have our logo on the clothing. So in a way that we actually are reverse integration from the Web3 back to the traditional business, and use the traditional item, just physical items, sneakers, clothing, food, drinks, and to reverse integrate and have the brand in front of them, and in a way that let's say even 1% of them say, oh, what is STEPN? And then find out, oh, actually this is a Web3 app, and to actually onboarding them in a massive scale and effective as well.
It's really interesting. I mean, when you talk about it like that, you're building this behemoth of really a sports company, which looks maybe something like a Disney meets Nike. When you explain it like that, I think before getting into the DEX, the NFT marketplace, the clothing, the Red Bull like sponsorships that you guys maybe plan to do, I think it's important to talk about just how it actually works right now for a couple of minutes. So there are two important things I think here, or maybe three important things. A, how do people make money? B, there are two different tokens, right? There's GST and GMT, and there are two different wallets. So maybe if you could just give an explainer, maybe tying the three of those together, GST and GMT, two different wallets. How do people make money? At its surface, it feels like very confusing, but I think when I've heard you lay it out, it makes a lot of sense.
Sure. So in this current phase, actually now it's phase 4, but in the current phase, people can only earn the GST, which is a infinite supply token, and basically implement many of the token burning mechanics. For example, that people have to repair the sneakers every day, and people can receive like a mystery box, and to open the box, they have to spend a lot of GST, and especially that when it comes to sneaker minting, you also need to GST. So we build a whole range of token burning mechanics, which basically to improve on the Axie Infinity, where except breeding, the game token doesn't have much of use. And we're trying to build a range of use cases where people are more likely to use it. Like, for example, that we create this gem system where there's 10 different levels. And people can then just upgrade the gems by burning the GST. And then the gems will enable them to have a better sneaker down the track, and then basically earn more token or be prepared for, let's say, GMT earnings. So that is to do with the GST. But again, it doesn't really, it doesn't have a cap, meaning that people keep creating the GST and will creating a inflationary pressure. And that's the reason that we'll have the GMT earning to counterbalance the GST.
Got it. Okay. So let me just almost repeat this back to you to make sure I fully understand the model. So to start, you download the STEPN app. You sign up for STEPN. You need a verification code. I think at one point you guys were giving out 1,000 a day. I'm not sure if that's still the model. You create a new wallet, right? A crypto wallet. So it generates a 12-word secret phrase. You transfer some Solana into your in-app wallet. You then head over to the in-app marketplace. You pick up a sneaker, and you basically purchase a sneaker. Once you have the sneaker, you can start earning. And I think different sneakers have different traits, if I remember correctly. You've got the energy, and you basically have like different levels, right? So if you have like, I think 1 sneaker, you're a newbie, 3 sneakers, you're a daily user, 9 sneakers, you're like a savvied user. The more sneakers you have, the more capital that you can actually earn. In terms of the token model, there are basically 2 different tokens. So you have GST, which has an infinite supply, and then you have the GMT, which I think there's a supply of like 6 billion, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And this kind of dual token model is something that we saw Axie Infinity really made this dual token system pretty popular, right? Made it popular. I think it's a pretty useful model for like X to earn, like play to earn or move to earn applications, where you have one token that's designed to be this highly inflationary reward token that kind of bears the brunt of the selling pressure that from users cashing out the rewards. That's the GST. And then the other accrues the value that's created by users' transactions inside the app. That's GMT. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, but the GMT also will serve a multiple layer of purposes, and we only just released one layer, which would be the in-game utility functions.
Got it. Okay. So once you get the GMT, is this going to be more of a model? Like, do you predict that users will do a model kind of like Sweatcoin, right? Sweatcoin is a huge Web 2, almost like a move to earn, where they get, it's not cryptocurrencies, they get just like tokens, and then they can use the tokens to buy in-app things on like Amazon or Nike or whatever it may be. Do you predict that it's in-app purchases? Do you predict that they'll sell and they'll buy Bitcoin or Ethereum? What do you think this looks like?
It's really we want the GS and GMT to be circulating within our own ecosystem, meaning that not only within STEPN but with other things we create, especially with the GMT, which will come in handy where we're having other product being built, right? So if you're staking GMT, you can get different perks on the NFT marketplace, for example.
Got it. Let's talk about the big question at hand here. As we're maybe 7 or 8 months into this bear market. Let's talk about how STEPN avoids the same fate as Axie, right? What learnings did you have just watching the meteoric rise and then kind of fall of Axie? What learnings did you have, and then maybe why is STEPN different from Axie here?
I think the one thing that I think differentiate us is people eventually maintain a healthier lifestyle is, I think, majority is what people want to do, right? So they want to develop that routines, but they always lack that level of motivation. So with video game playing, that's different. So video game playing is that, okay, this great game that is really addictive, and then keep playing, and if that pays you money, that's awesome. But eventually you get a little bit tired of playing this type of video games, and you say, all right, that's it, and move on to the next one. But what we're trying to offer is something that will benefit people. One, if you keep walking outside or running outside, you get more energy, literally more energy, and losing weight, you feel better. And we also have seen a lot of users do have smoking issues, diabetes, depressions, and they find their condition being alleviated because they've been exercise regularly, and they can see the benefit doesn't really come from the earnings, but it also comes from the visible improvement on people's health. So I think that's the key point that is differentiate us. So even though everything in this bear market price went down, I still go out and walk an hour and 40 minutes every day, and once that built into your routines, it's become difficult to change, and then you just keep going, and eventually you'll discover that, okay, I lose that love handle, I get more energies, and you feel better.
I think, look, Yawn, I don't disagree with any of that. I mean, when I first met you guys, there were two. Obviously, I feel really passionately about healthcare, and one of the things that is wrong in the healthcare system is that it's very reactive. So you then think, okay, there are incentives that we focused on in crypto how can we apply those to nudge certain outcomes and motivate people to do something. I was a longtime user of Strava, and when I discovered crypto, I was like, wait, why doesn't Strava have a token? The argument that I've heard from a lot of folks when I tell them about STEPN is they say, wait a minute. Well, obviously this is a Ponzi because a lot of other people, you're buying the sneaker from another person, right? And that sneaker roughly costs X, which is comparable to an actual sneaker. Like it was at one point like $130. It's priced in Seoul, I think. And so how do you respond to someone that says the current installed base, the current user base is very motivated to use the app, but is dependent on other users coming and buying their sneakers? And when people hear that, they sort of say, wait a minute, that's a Ponzi. And I'm sure this is not the first time you've heard this, but what would be your response to someone like that?
So I think if one word has been overused in the cryptocurrency industry is a Ponzi word. And it could be very well argued that everything is Ponzi, but we're not going to go down that path today. And so with STEPN, when people are creating tokens, and we're trying to create a use cases for that token, and there will be people willing to pay to buy the token, and then for, let's say, minting sneakers, yes, you create new sneakers through tokens which somebody sold to you, right? That token has a value. Or for more of the intrinsic reasons, you say, all right, I want to improve this sneaker, right? So because the sneaker is my social identity. And this is what we see from a lot of the community gatherings, that people say, oh, what sneaker you got? Have this like a Genesis or have this SX special sneaker. So it become part of your social identity, and then say, all right, the sneaker has more values than a production tool, right, to produce tokens. You feel attached, and if you sell it, if you sell the sneaker, you sell part of your identity. So definitely that when you're saying something with Ponzi, meaning that you create zero value, right? You simply move somebody's money, the newcomer's money, you pay the people come before you. The counter argument for the Ponzi acquisition is, have we created values? Have we created value? So I think we do, right? So one, we create a community where we are hosting a lot of live events. We have people showing up, hundreds of them attending live event. Just nice social gatherings. People talk to each other. They do a lap or 5 laps of running, walkings, and then they go out and have a good time. Either it's a picnic or it's going to a pub, have a drink. So there are social value being created, definitely, and the social fi is also the path that we're also discovering down the track. And also, people do need to buy this to buy GST or the tokens of the exchange or of the swap and do things, right? So I bought today I bought $500 worth of GST just to try and upgrade my sneakers. And so when that creates a value for people to move around and get healthier, and then to create value and demand for the tokens, and on top of that create social value of gathering, I don't think that falls into the category of Ponzi, because value being created, right? Value being exchanged, and the exchange is at a fair value, right? Price goes down. Why? Because there's less demand than supply. But it doesn't mean it's a Ponzi, because it's being created, connections being created, value being created.
Yeah, I'm with you, Yawn. I actually don't love the term Ponzi. I think I would say like the what happened with Axie is basically a multi-step process where investors bought the NFT assets. Investors then hired scholars to play the game using those NFTs. Scholars made money in the form of a native crypto token. Investors and scholars then started dumping the token on new investors, and that cycle kind of repeated. And I think Ponzi, I agree with you, Yawn. I don't love that word here, but that model with Axie required new investors to keep joining the game to provide exit liquidity for the current investors. So kind of everyone was happy as long as the new money flows in. It sounds like you would push back that that's not the model with STEPN.
Yeah, so I think the key point is that people are still using the app. and the motivation for them to using that could be different. Somebody says, I want to make my make returns, and someone say, I just want to keep fit. So, but I think the value creation part is the key important part, where let's say if less people are playing STEPN, and we have seen the sneaker has been become a deflationary supply now, because we have released the enhancement, which you burn 5 sneakers, you get a better quality one. So 100,000 sneakers have been burned. So so they will be going through cycles. Doesn't matter is the sneaker price or the token price, but we are following a economic trend or cycles, and you can't call things when it's dropped Ponzi, right, or up Ponzi. You become overly irresponsible.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Who do you think of as you start to build out the app and all these experiences? Who do you think of as your biggest competitors here? Is it the Strava, like Santiago mentioned Strava, Nike, Sweatcoin? Is that the group that those are your main competitors?
I think we were able to grow this fast was really because there wasn't much of a competition going around, because I think we were lucky that we're in this very sweet spot where we're on the mobile end, so we don't need to compete with all the GameFis. And also with Sweatcoin, with a whole bunch of other moves and earn sort of project out there. I think we make a good balance between the game and financials part. Is some of I think with Sweatcoin, it become a little bit boring after using it for a bit, right? So it doesn't really offer any interactions. I think that's the part, and also interaction with the app and the user, and also between user or among users. What we're trying to facilitate is more on the offline event, and that's where we more like Strava. To facilitate, the face-to-face interactions, to build the social connections. But again, Strava doesn't have that earn bit or game bit. So we actually try to piece all these together and to create something that more attractive than the traditional sort of in this old category called like free earning apps. That's sort of where it belonged before this like X to earn become really popular.
I want to maybe talk a little bit about your BD plans. You've done some collaborations which I think are pretty interesting, with sneaker brands, but also with crypto native communities like Bored Apes. So the ELP realm is pretty interesting. I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about that. How does that enhance the value that within STEPN, and what are other kind of future, like where do you see these collaborations going in the future?
With the ape realm, we basically airdropped. So this is where we draw the learnings from we create this realm system where we basically open identical games on different blockchain or on the same blockchain with a different theme. That enable us to sort of give a reset, and also to attract user that wasn't able to attract before. And for that particular reason, we draw learning on the BNB chain, which was not enough sneaker in the beginning. It's only a couple thousand pairs. So this time we dropped to all the Bored Ape holders, and also all the Genesis sneaker holders, plus a whole bunch of raffles and also drawings in and out of the app. So I think we are because each blockchain, so with Solana, with BNB chain, and now on the Ethereum chain, if we are not on that chain, we cannot tag into that chain's core users. Only that when we extend to Ethereum, we'll be able to tap into the a lot of the sort of the blue chip NFT holders, and then we'll be able to grow our ecosystem bigger, and basically to influence them, and then to have them to refer to their friend, and so on and so forth, basically to expand the ecosystem. And that's sort of the one of the main objective for us, to build newer realms.
Yeah.
And to grow and to increase our sort of brand awareness, and eventually again to break into the Web2 and get more users down the track.
Speaking of users, just I want to take a moment here to just talk about a couple of stats that are pretty interesting. On your website, you show these live, which is pretty great. So to date, there have been close to 70 million miles that have been logged by users. That translates to roughly 4.3 billion calories burned, and some carbon offset attached to that. One of the things that when I was talking to you guys was sort of the scalability problems that you were facing in Solana, and then you had to go to another chain. How does, you guys have gotten some very early success with a phased rollout, because there were so many people that were pinging me for codes, and I said, guys, like, I only have so many codes. You have released a very methodical kind of way of every day. I think in your Discord, you release certain codes. I think it's 1,000, and then that allows the next set of users to join. How do you think about scaling this to potentially billions of users? Like, is that possible with the current infrastructure? And how do we get there?
I think it's possible because I think a couple months ago we have upgraded the server, basically to be able to accommodate not billions, but at least tens of millions easily every day, basically. So basically we'll do future server upgrade, and once we see needed. And again, we believe that with user, we really cannot grow too fast. And if you grow too fast, it creates a lot of issues, because NFT are being produced by users. And if user growth is faster than the NFT being produced, you can see that the price went up to the sky. And then that causes issues. So we want to really pace it out to have a set number of users to join every day, and just to smoothly increase our users without impacting too much on the NFT and token prices. So as we, again, step into the bear market, and we actually are trying to, again, move our focus on more of a traditional method of growing. And the activation code or the invite code, I think, is one of the key, key reason that we be able to scale. I always trying to use the sort of the COVID metaphor. Basically, COVID basically is that you affect the close contact, friends and families. And with STEPN, we're also trying to do that. Basically, you use it, you feel that it's a great app, and you want to introduce to your friend families. And with your activation code, when you have that code, they always know who to ask question from, and that creates that social bond.
All right, folks, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Avalanche and Ava Labs. They have just dropped a new crypto wallet called Core. You're going to be hearing a lot about it over the coming months. You can now be one of the first to try it out. Here's the reason I'm excited to partner with them on Empire. Right now, crypto wallets and browser extensions, they feel clunky, they feel non-intuitive. That's why Ava Labs built Core. It's a free, non-custodial browser extension that gives Avalanche users a seamless and secure Web3 experience across the entire Avalanche ecosystem. Here are a few reasons to try Core. Here's what I'm experimenting with. Number one, Core has intuitive dashboards with a unified display for all of your NFT collections, all your crypto assets. You can execute asset swaps directly inside the wallet. It's a really nice experience. Maybe you want to earn yield or borrow against your Bitcoin, but you don't want to do it on one of those CeFi platforms right now. Core's native bridging functionality makes it really easy to bridge your Bitcoin to Avalanche's robust DeFi ecosystem. Last but not least, Core makes on-ramping super easy. You can convert dollars to crypto right now using the MoonPay integration. Just takes a few clicks. download Core today using the link in the show notes. It's really, really nice. If you are interested in the Avalanche ecosystem at all, you have to be using Core. Download Core using the link below. Now, let's get back to the show.
So certainly we've seen in a game like Axie, there is a very big subset of earners that go away when it's no longer lucrative for them to play and earn. In this case, look, we all walk. But how many, the question is perhaps more on that habitual part, which is how many of your users do you think will stop logging and using STEPN if the price kind of collapses? And do you think that, are you kind of focused on that? Or do you think that users will naturally just say, look, I'm gonna use STEPN the same way that I use Strava, but I just have, maybe it's just a very marginal incentive and nudge because you're earning something, which could be a token, but could also just be you're attached emotionally to your sneakers and you want to, that sort of badge of honor, the same way people go do Ironmans and have medals to show for in their walls, when people go to their houses, So I'm curious how you think about that relationship of the different kind of users that are coming to STEPN now. Because, at the very beginning, people would be walking to lunch and they would pay for the lunch with earned tokens. That's I don't think you and I and all of us three here can agree that that's sustainable. But the question is, are people going to keep using and be motivated enough to come to STEPN and set up and onboard if they know that they can't make as much money?
Okay, so is two points, right? One is all in the executions. And because we've seen that we have a surge of inflation of the sneakers, basically too much sneaker being produced, and then we soon have the solutions basically to do the enhancement. Basically, you burn 5, you have higher quality, a better quality basically, and we can certainly see that huge amount of token being burned. Sneaker being burned, and now we are looking at the deflationary supply of the sneakers, and yes, people do walk away. And because I bought the sneaker price too high, right? And I don't feel that I'm gonna make my money back, and they walk away, and this is normal. But when people are looking at a sneaker now, the ROI is pretty consistent. Where because so always the new entry will see. Okay, they will be able to make their ROI in 2 weeks, 2 months of time. And when they can sustain that, and they will basically motivate it. And when people are bought at the top, unfortunately, we've seen that people say, I'll just keep walking because why not? And we do see people walk away. But the point I want to make is that I want people to see this as a long-term project, because once the GMT earning has been enabled, so the thing will starting to change, because it is the GSE that single side selling pressure on the GSE causing the issues. Once we have the other side, things will be much improved.
Yeah. I want to ask a very basic question before we keep going down this path, which is, it was a question that I asked you at the very beginning when we first met, which is, wait a minute, how does someone not game this? And I think you mentioned something about the accelerometer in the phone, but my first question was, my first initial reaction was, okay, somehow, somewhere, someone's going to find a way to pretend like they're walking and then just make a ton of money.
Put it on a treadmill. Put your phone on.
That's
the
right.
treadmill.
We've all seen the meme of like this guy with like 100 phones, right, and like pretending to walk. How do you, from a technical standpoint, can you just explain to listeners like how you actually detect when someone is faking it, and can you fake it?
We are at the rollout of the first generation of the SMAC, which is the STEPN anti-cheating mechanics. And we have the first generation came out 1 month after we made the public beta. And then we spent this months of time to build a much better and complicated algorithm to pick the cheating there's different ways of cheat, right? There's one way is basically you pack a full bag of mobile, and then you run at once, then you earn 9 times of what you're supposed to earn. And the other type of cheating is basically what we see very common at the moment is when you do the replay attack, is that you record one section of your actual running, and then you keep replaying that and trying to game the system. So it is difficult because with the artificial intelligence, you need a huge amount of data set in order to say, okay, to distinguish between the cheating with the normal runnings. And we have changed many ways basically to trying to optimize that without interfering in people's user experience. Because I think with the third AI we roll out, it will verify every run, and then that causes massive issues. And now we are using a more of a background mode, basically to not really actively detect users, but if we detect they are being abnormal users, then we will having an internal called Turing score reduction, and then they won't be able to do any in-app interactions after that. Then they have to run normally to restore their Turing score. So we are using several algorithms based on the machine learnings to basically detect if this is the actual person running. So we now are very good at it because before, without the a lot of data set, sometimes you have people argue, say, all right, I'm actually running while you detect me as a bot. And now we can very confidently say, if we detect you as a bot, you're a bot.
Yeah.
And we actually can prove it. And the next generation, so we keep, so basically there's no stop on improving the technology. And to give you another example is that I think on the second generation we built, we can only detect if you carry, say, 4 or 5 phones. And as we gathering the AI become more smarter, we can now narrow down to 3, 2, and 1. So basically, we are trying to tighten up now with the newer algorithm. So
Yeah.
that's the current stage. And then moving forward, we also trying to implement what we call like edge computations. So that's another way that we trying to have the anti-cheating done locally at users' mobile, meaning that we don't need to collect their GPS data, and meaning that with a lot of the privacy issues with the GPS data, there will be none. So there's always that we're trying to anti-cheating is always like the biggest sort of topic when we come to sort of a dev talk. So we have a whole team basically looking after on the AI side. So not only collecting the gyrometers, also the GPS and also the steps of the step counter, and then we basically run the algorithm and say, all right, are their mobile at the right place? They cannot be like 3 meters high from the ground. These type of things. And what kind of, many of the pattern people trying to tweak, especially the replay attack, is when they think they can fake sort of disguise. But in the eye of machine learning algorithm, it is an anomaly. So basically, we're trying to compile all the data set together, and then to deconstruct, and then to trying to reconstruct. If it doesn't make sense, meaning that it's cheating.
Yeah, because I think when you were talking about that, I just thought, okay, if you have an event, say a marathon, well, it could be up to thousands of runners, and that could be perceived as, wait, someone's cheating, right? Because there's so many people logging at the same time, the same GPS like kind of location. You're kind of triangulating, because the way I think location data is gathered, it might be like the algorithm might say, oh, this is cheating. And so Does that limit? Would you say that like the fraudulent score goes up during events where there's like multiple like people gathering, or can you tease that out?
No. So when people gathering, you only will see they are very close up of their GPS, but GPS is really only one metric. Everybody have different height. They put their phones at different part of their body, pocket, holding on hand, meaning that the elevations will always be different, and then their pace will be different. So there's so many things people are different.
Right.
So you cannot have two people, even they hold hand in hand, they will still showing up different in the eye of algorithm.
Yeah. Speaking about this, what's next? Like for the company that built the game, or is Find Satoshi Labs. You built what is now applicable for walking and running, jogging. Do you see yourself doing other type of applications or different type of sports? I'm curious how you think about branching out into other kind of verticals or activities to tap into this health conscious type of app.
We use walking or running because there is a way that we can verify if that's a actual human. But with a lot of other sport is very difficult because, for example, biking, I cannot distinguish if you are riding a motorbike or actual riding a bike, or you're on or even driving a car, because there's no movement. With walking and running, you actually are moving up and down, and also forward. So it's verifiable. We have yet found any other type of sport we can easily verify their motion is genuine. So if you cannot verify, that token could be mass produced by cheating or bot, and eventually the token will worth much less than what it's supposed to be, because again, with infinite supply, because there's no cost. I think the point I'm trying to argue is, if you are actually moving yourself, you want to put a price tag behind your work, right? So say for this distance, I want to make how much money, and but if you are running a bot, you can run massive like bot farms, and there's no cost, right? So with let's say with an actual human, say okay, if the token reward is too little, I'd rather not working today.
Yeah.
When they are not working, no token being produced, sell pressure reduce, we're starting to see the price rebalance.
Speaking of this, what other avenues, and you've hinted at this during the conversation, you see out there that can accrue value back to kind of stabilizing the ecosystem? Maybe in that equation, do you see like insurance companies getting interested, other brands getting interested, events like the New York Marathon or, Ironman? Like, I'm curious how you think about the evolution of the ecosystem from a cash flow perspective, and having what we call sinks, right? Reasons for people to use the token, not just immediately kind of swap it and clock in a gain.
Ultimately, what we picture ourselves is become sort of the billboard of Web3, where people can do the sponsorship of their marathon through our marathon mode. And with Realms partnership, for example, that to bring their part of the bargain, for example, their IP or their users, so there's many ways we're trying to bring external parties to be part of STEPN, and then we build something together and create more values. So or to use STEPN as a way to advertise. So basically, the typical example would be, say, if they want to access the premium sort of Web3 users that focus on their own health and are well off, and then they have to come to us, and then we become the gateway, and then we say, all right, we'll charge you X amount of money, and then this X money portion of them then go back to the community.
Yawn, I think it was Chris Dixon who coined this phrase back in maybe 2015, 2016, come for the tool, stay for the network, right? Right now, STEPN feels very much like a tool, less like a network, I would say. What's the plan to maybe build social features? Santi mentioned Strava, so I'll go back to Strava, right? On Strava, you can share, you can comment, you can give kudos on other people's runs. There's a leaderboard, there are in-person events. I know you mentioned that you guys might build marathons yourself or build this network of marathons. But what's the plan to build the network? Less building the tool.
So the social part, I think, is increasingly difficult to tackle, especially in the Web3 world that everybody says social fi. Then how do you put the fi into the social without get gamed? The main issue is, let's say if we create a chatting group and say we reward people to chat, and then immediately we have a lot of bot trying to say GMs repeatedly. So we need to have a verifiable way to encourage people or incentivize people to go social. But at the moment, we can't find any. Maybe we'll find that in the future. So our direction with building the network is building offline networks. And also, I think that's one thing that a bit of lacking on Web3, everybody on Twitter and on the Discord. And they don't go out and meet people much. And we're trying to build a vibrant offline community, at least for now, and to build ambassadors that could take the responsibilities to organize offline event, and gradually run that into a like a DAO structure, and then we want to see how that takes us. We don't know what's gonna happen, but let's say we have various of hundreds of like say city DAO or city running group, while that create more synergies, and that could create new opportunities for us. We just have to work toward that and see and find out.
Yeah. There's another thing I want to get your take on here, Yawn. There are a lot of people who think that gaming is one of the best ways to onboard folks into DeFi. Previously, STEPN swaps went through Orca, right? You guys launched your own DEX about 3, maybe 4 weeks ago. It's already the most popular DEX on Solana, if I'm looking at the right numbers here, by a decent chunk. What is your plan? I think 65% of all DEX daily active are now on this DEX that you guys built. What is your plan for basically A, like onboarding folks into DeFi, and B, how do you think about it's almost like this traditional question of build versus buy, right? Using other people's DeFi applications versus building them yourself. How do you think about that?
I think this is the part where we're going back to the thing we discussed is using STEPN as a user onboarding tool. And once they take it on board, they familiarize of how everything works. And then we can say, all right, you've tried the NFT, with STEPN, especially for the people that never sort of get into crypto before, right? So these people have no idea what DEX is, and but they'll be part of the community, and within the community they can be educated, and they'll find out what is DEX and can they add liquidity and create LP pairs, and et cetera, all this traditional sort of DEX stuff. So is we're trying to this is the part that we're trying to onboard user when they are ready. When they are ready to, say, transform from like a STEPN user to a Web3 users, they're going to need to know how to use DEX. They're going to need to know how to use NFT marketplace and centralized exchanges, so on and so forth. So we're just trying to build this different stage of flywheels. And then when they're ready, here you go, that's a DEX. And when they're ready, NFT marketplace. And we were thinking about building the music platforms, social platforms down the track. So when they need sort of Web3 tools or infrastructures, we have something there. So trying to build like a semi-enclosed ecosystem where people will be within the ecosystem and then using same token and exchange values.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, everything really is an attention game. And I think in many ways, Bored Ape was the first instantiation of what started off as a lot of people that had no interest in crypto came for for the first time, and then they've layered on so many things around that. And the same with the WeChat did it back in the day. I am curious, what kind of, if we can spend a moment talking about like the behavior that you're observing from all these users. Obviously, I'd be really interested in getting more insights from what you found interesting on that. Like, are people like, do they immediately start logging? It takes 3-4 weeks for the user to kind of gradually work their way up? Like, what kind of like user insights can you can share with us that you're seeing?
I think we are seeing, I think user behavior are pretty much the same. They're trying to maximize the returns, right? The return could be in different forms, but many of them trying to strategize, right? So as soon as they get into the game, they discover that there's different pathways to success, and then starting to quickly analyze on which pathway they should take. For the long-term holder or the users, you say, all right, I'll having a GMT sneaker, park them at level 30 with some of these gems inserted. So waiting the moment when GMT earning started, they can be the first one to dig in. And there also are the people that trying to really get the return on investment fairly quickly, right? They're trying to strategize on different levels. I think the people posting their own guide say, all right, do level 9 to level 19, and don't go beyond. And then you have, they really down into this calculation game. And I think that's what we find very fascinating is they become sort of a game between the developers and the users, right? The user always trying to find the best way to game the system. And we're always trying to patch it up and create more token sinks. And then they create a very interesting dynamic between the app and then the users. It's really trying to have something for people that let's say for the minters. At one time that we discovered that there are many particular person are hoarding a lot of sneakers, just keep minting. And then that's when we started to install the minting scroll, which means that you can only get minting scroll by running. And so meaning that when people are making profits through just purely minting without any exercise, they have to buy this scroll from people that are doing the exercise. So the profit goes from the minter to the runners. Mm-hmm. And so once that happened, we started to see people strategize their way to maximize the minting scrolls, and trying to discover, what type of or level of mystery box contain the minting scroll, mm-hmm. and trying to explore. So it's constant. I think it's a constant evolving on user behavior, and for us, we really want to get people engaged and keep using the app, and for the user, it's always trying to maximize their returns.
And of course the perfect side effect of that is you whip into shape, which that has always been one of the biggest criticisms around gaming. It's like you're just kind of a rotten potato in your couch. In this case, people are moving, and obesity rates are up and to the right, and that's pretty interesting. Do people log their weight in the platform? Do you collect other types of data? Because in Strava and others, like you can monitor this stuff to kind of like correlate it to the activity. I'm curious if you've thought about
people that. People do post how they feel, and also they do post pictures on Twitter. So you go search, you can find a whole bunch of them. And not only the weight, it's always also the mental state. Mm-hmm. People are improving. There's many cases that also can find on Twitters. Yeah. So I think it's overall improving. So people don't discover this after they realized how much they have changed their shape, and that's when you sort of say, oh, hold on a second, my trouser become too big to hold my belly. What happened? Mm-hmm. You lost weight, and that's where they realize that the app is effective.
Yeah. So last question for me. So when will I be able to go to my insurance provider and say, listen, I'm using this thing called STEPN. I've lost weight. become healthier by all these like markers, metrics, can I get a lower premium? Can I get some sort of discount on my insurance policy? Can I get a lower rate with doctors? Like, do you see that? And if that's on the roadmap, when do you think that is going to be a possibility?
We do have this type of ambition, but it becomes something that you're probably going to need to work with the government side in order to push something like this. And we certainly not going to see this in the near future. But I think what we're going to do is that we're going to have to prove to the market that we are a very much sustainable project with true impact to people, and also working on various of the BD really to demonstrate, right? The level of execution we can put out, the level of partnership we can create, and the level of users we can accrue, and really not only get users but also retain them, and not only getting the Web3 users but also the normies as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's truly when we starting to I think stand out and then be able to working with more sort of a higher level of collaborations.
Yawn, I think I just have one last question to wrap this up, which is I'd love to just hear your reflections on building a crypto app that kind of bridges between Web 2 and Web 3, and like what have been the limitations of maybe the infrastructure. And there are a lot of entrepreneurs who listen to this and folks who are building in crypto. So you guys obviously chose to build on Solana. Like, what are the limitations? What have been the good things, the bad things? What do you wish existed on the infrastructure side of things that maybe could enable you to 10x or 100x STEPN?
I think again, I mean there's no shortcut on this. Unfortunately, we tried, but really you really to have something that is functional and operational and also interesting to play. So we spend a lot of time basically just thinking every day and also talking and brainstorming. I think the limitation is really your imagination. We always trying to find where we can maximize the impact with the minimum effort. I think that's always what entrepreneurs want to achieve, right? So, and we're always trying to find that sort of a weak link and to improve that as well. So, I think people, especially for the startups, they really have to find that sweet spot before they move, because if they just pick any of area and it was the wrong area or wrong directions, and certainly the more they work and the more they spend their effort on, the further they're going to be away from success. So that's one. And two, I think when we first designed the app, we are far different from the original concept. So that's when we discovered the market and also the user demand, and we started to pivot, right? So I think every day we are looking at the stats and we say, is there a better way we can deal with this, right? Do we need to pivot to something else? Do we need to open another branch to attract more users? So I think we did a lot of trial and errors. I think we have to do it. So one way that is you don't know until you try it, right? So it doesn't work, we quickly will pivot again to something else and say, right, well, that direction works. So I think for the journey that we've been through almost a year, is that we never really give up. If one way doesn't work, we try the other. If the other one, we just keep trying until we find the right way, and then we just push through, and we'll have that exponential growth. And then if we're probably gonna hit the bottleneck, and then we'll push through again. And I don't think we can stay still, right? So we always have to keep trying, keep building, and expanding, pivoting. Just to adapt the market. Especially in this current stage, basically, is adapt and survive.
Yeah.
And we wait for that bull market. So
awesome. Well, Yawn, it is tough not to root for you and to root for anyone who is helping to move this space forward. It's been an awesome conversation. Appreciate the time. And yeah, like I said, I think we're all rooting for you here.
thank you.
Yawn, I guess before we go, perhaps one, where can people find you, learn more about STEPN, and two, maybe some parting thoughts or words that you want to impress upon our listeners?
Sure. So I think in this particular market condition, we spend a lot of time just keep building and recruiting developers. I think people shouldn't. I've seen people sort of get really frustrated about this bear market and just just tap out. I think being through the last bear market, which is really super depressive for me, sometimes people just need to hang on there, and eventually things will get better. I think people that stay through the last two bear market could agree with me. So for the people that first get into cryptos for this cycle, things could be difficult, but I do believe that the whole industry will get better.
Absolutely. And what better way? I mean, I think bear markets are for shredding. And so I think this is a perfect opportunity for people who've been in their basement, not doing anything, to get out, get moving. And I think everyone can sympathize with this idea that you always typically feel better after exercise. And so no matter how bad things you think are, by looking at charts or a day or your portfolio, I think we all can benefit from an extra walk or an extra run. And endorphins make you happy. Not to quote Legally Blonde, but I am quoting Legally Blonde. And so exercise stimulates endorphins, and endorphins make you happy. So at least we can be in a bear market, but we can be happy by exercising. So I'm rooting.
Hell of a quote there, Santi.
Yeah, I know. I showed my true skin here. I'm quoting Legally Blonde, but nonetheless, and this is great. I think the next evolution of apps really will show the world of the positive influence that creative systems that have better incentives, and applying that to things that really move the needle, and health is certainly one of those, as the world kind of struggles with a health crisis, is something that is fascinating experiment, and I think it is working to some extent. And so, as Jason said, rooting for you, and definitely you should check up on you guys over the next in some time, see how you're doing. But otherwise, thanks for coming on the pod and sharing this with everyone.
Thank you.